Everyone makes mistakes. They press the wrong button, flip the wrong switch, pull the wrong handle. But can you imagine accidentally pulling the release handle for an atomic bomb? It sounds absurd. Nuclear weapons are supposed to have layers of protection against human error. Unfortunately, it is possible. In fact, it already happened. The bomb fell beside an ordinary American family's home, but no nuclear mushroom cloud rose over the impact site. Why? In this video, you will learn why an atomic bomb fell, exploded, but did not detonate as a nuclear weapon.
On March 11, 1958, Walter Gregg was at his home near Mars Bluff, South Carolina. It was the kind of place where a military aircraft overhead did not automatically mean danger. Air Force planes passed over the area often enough that the sound could fade into the background of daily life. On the ground, his family was doing ordinary things, working near the house, sewing inside, children playing nearby.
That is what makes the story so disturbing. The people below were not soldiers. They were not part of a secret test. They had no reason to know that above them, a Cold War bomber was carrying a real atomic bomb. The family was living its day on the surface. The nuclear age was passing directly over their roof.
The aircraft was a Boeing B-47 Stratojet, one of the symbols of America's early jet nuclear force. It was built for speed, altitude, and the idea that the United States had to be ready at any moment. During the Cold War, that readiness became a system of long flights, tense crews, and weapons that were supposed to remain under perfect control. This was not supposed to be a combat strike. It was part of a training mission, the kind designed to prepare crews for the worst day imaginable. The aircraft would fly a long route, simulate a wartime bombing mission, and prove that the men and machines of Strategic Air Command could perform under pressure. On paper, that sounded controlled. In the air, it depended on people, procedures, and small mechanical details.
Inside the bomber was a Mark VI atomic bomb. It was not a harmless shape made for practice. It was heavy, real, and dangerous enough that one failure could turn an ordinary flight into a national emergency. But the most important secret about that bomb will wait until the end, because the crater on the ground only tells half the story. After takeoff, the crew discovered a problem with the bomb's locking system. A safety pin that was supposed to secure the weapon had not properly engaged. That meant someone had to go back and deal with it by hand. In a normal machine, that might sound inconvenient. In a jet bomber carrying an atomic bomb, it became the first link in a chain that no one on the ground could see.
The task fell to Captain Bruce Kolka, the navigator, bombardier. To reach the area near the bomb, he had to move through a cramped passage inside the aircraft. The space was narrow, the light was poor. The aircraft was moving through the sky, and he could not simply stand up, take a breath, and work like a mechanic on a hangar floor. This is where the story stops being about a machine and becomes about a person inside a dangerous system. Kolka was not trying to create a disaster, he was trying to fix a problem. But the system had placed him in a spot where one wrong movement could matter more than anyone wanted to believe.
Near the bomb was an emergency release handle. It existed for a reason. If a bomber needed to jettison its weapon in a crisis, the crew had to be able to do it quickly. But that same feature created a terrible possibility. In the wrong moment, in the wrong position, a safety measure could become a trigger for disaster. As Kolka tried to work in that cramped space, he reached for support. The aircraft was not a calm room. It was a moving bomber with vibration, noise, and very little room for error. Then his hand found the wrong handle. The release system activated. The atomic bomb dropped from its mount and crashed through the bomb bay doors.
For a moment, the danger was split between two worlds. In the aircraft, the crew had just lost a weapon they were never supposed to lose. Below, the Gregg family still had no idea that something weighing thousands of pounds was falling toward their land. The most frightening part was the silence between the mistake in the sky and the explosion on the ground.
The bomb fell from thousands of feet and struck near the Gregg family's home. Then the conventional explosives inside it detonated. The blast tore into the property, damaged the house, shattered the calm of the entire area, and left a crater in the South Carolina soil. For the family, there was no time to understand what had happened. There was only shock, dust, broken wood, and injured children.
The explosion was powerful enough to make people nearby think something enormous had happened. A house was damaged, several people were hurt. The ground itself carried the evidence, a hole where no hole had been before. But the strange part was what did not happen. There was no nuclear fireball, no city-sized destruction, no radioactive wasteland spreading outward from Mars Bluff.
Soon, military teams arrived. They sealed off the area, checked for radiation, and tried to understand how a weapon from an American bomber had landed beside an American home. For the public, the simplest explanation was also the most frightening. The United States had accidentally bombed its own people with one of its own atomic bombs. And yet the question still remained. If the bomb was real, why was South Carolina still standing? If it exploded, why was there no nuclear detonation? The answer was not in the crater and not in the panic after the blast. It was hidden inside the bomb itself.
The Mark 6 bomb was a real atomic bomb, but it was not fully assembled for a nuclear explosion at that moment. The nuclear core, the part needed to create the atomic detonation, was not installed inside the weapon when it fell. That missing piece is why the blast at Mars Bluff did not become a nuclear mushroom cloud. The weapon was real, but the final step toward a nuclear explosion had not been taken. But that does not mean the bomb was harmless. It still contained conventional high explosives, the kind meant to help start the nuclear process when the weapon was fully assembled. Those explosives did go off. They were strong enough to damage homes, injure people, and carve a crater into the ground. Mars Bluff was not a nuclear disaster, but it was not a harmless accident either.
That difference matters. The world did not avoid disaster because no one made a mistake. A mistake was made. The bomb fell. The explosives detonated. The only reason the worst outcome did not happen was that one essential component was not in place. In other words, Mars Bluff was not proof that the system was safe. It was proof that the margin between control and catastrophe could be terrifyingly thin. For the Gregg family, official language could never fully match what they had lived through. Reports could call it an incident. Officers could explain that the worst had been avoided. But a family had watched its home break apart because a weapon from the sky landed where children had been playing.
The Air Force later compensated the Gregg family, and the crew reached out with apologies. Walter Gregg even stayed in contact with them for years. That detail changes the feeling of the story. This was not a cartoon about a careless man pulling the wrong handle. It was a human accident inside a nuclear machine that was too large, too tense, and too confident in itself. The most frightening thing about Mars Bluff is not that a man made a mistake. Everyone does. The frightening thing is that one ordinary mistake was enough to drop an atomic bomb beside an American family's home. If you want more stories about dangerous systems and the people trapped inside them, subscribe to What, Where, and Why channel, and tell me in the comments which story we should uncover next.